Right, welcome to part 2 of the Smooth Operator build. I've moved into the other workshop, also known as the dining room. I've got a bit more space in here with what we're going to do next. Now, when we left it at the end of part 1, just joined the wings, so we're now going to go on to the next step and show how the wings are fixed and held in place on the model. So I'll just turn the camera around so we can get a better view of what's happening. So you'll remember this part that was detached from the bottom of the fuselage. Here is the wing now joined and with a single section glassed. Now this fits over the wing and fits into there, and that just sits down there. Okay, that's fit there. So that's how it all goes together now. So that'll be bolted down there. The tongue at the front holds that in position and holds the wing central. All I've got to do now is to glue this fuselage under section onto the wing, and that will then become one piece and go in and out, and then just be fixed at the back with the 2 bolts. So that's the next step, and I'll get on with that. Okay, back in the workshop now, and this is dried, so I can lift that away. So the under section of the fuselage is now attached to the wing, and that just slots in there really nicely, like that. So that's worked out just fine. And while that was drying, I also fitted the tail plane. I just swing the camera around on that. There we go. So that went in there fine. Again, the slot is pre-cut, and just took a little bit of easing out around there, but then it went in no problem. Made sure it was straight and square with the wing, and all good. Okay, servos are fitted on a tray along with the switch, and I've got a push rod going down to the elevator and closed loop rudder system, and I've supported the elevator push rod with snake halters at points down the fuselage. Just take a sweep down the fuselage so we can see that. So it's a push rod for each elevator. Okay, progress with the wing. The ailerons are both now hinged and the horns attached. Now, wingtips don't normally cause many problems, but this kit was supplied with 2 pretty chunky wingtips, which actually weren't quite long enough to span the end of the wing and the aileron. So making another pair of wingtips a suitable length wouldn't really be a problem, but I did wonder if I was missing something. So I spoke to David at Balsa Cabin, where I bought the kit, and actually he was a little bit confused himself to begin with, but then concluded that the wings, actually the wingtips were not required. So the Smooth Operator is based on a CAP 222, which does not have wingtips as such. The wing and aileron just finish flush at the end. But having said all of that, I felt I wanted to provide some degree of protection to the ends of the wings and ailerons, which are actually quite vulnerable, being just veneered foam. So I added 15mm wide end caps. Right, moving on to mounting the engine and fitting the cowl. Now, the only thing you've got to determine the position of the engine is this line on the engine cowl. There's nothing in the instructions, there's no plan or drawing that you can refer to, but this line clearly goes through the centre of the engine there, and it's also a line that goes down the fuselage there. So taking that off, then put a line across the fuselage, which is then the centre of the engine mount. So then the prop comes out through the centre of the cowling. Now the instructions recommend 2 to 3 millimeters of side thrust and 1 millimeter down thrust. I've gone in the middle with the side thrust. I've gone to 2.5 mil and gone with the 1 mil down thrust. Now that requires 3 millimeters of packing to get the side thrust and 1 millimeter packing to get the down thrust, and also the engine needs to be offset slightly, or the engine mount needs offsetting to the left slightly, so that with that side thrust then the prop shaft comes out through the centre of the hole, and the same with the down thrust. The engine mount's very slightly higher in order that with the down thrust again the prop shaft comes out through the centre of the hole in the cowling. To get the cowling fitted, I just needed a bit of relieving around these corners here, just slightly shaping, and a little bit around the sides, just generally around the perimeter really, just to ease it so that the cowling slips on. And then of course putting 3 blocks, and the top fixing actually for the cowling actually goes through the nylon engine mount. So that's the fixings for the cowling. So with the mount in place, I've now fitted the engine. Now I debated for some time in my mind what engine to use. I was thinking of using a 120 because I had a spare 120, and in fact the website says you can use anything from a 90 to a 120. The instructions say from a 53 upwards, and in fact the prototype was flown with an MVVS 77. So in the end I decided to go for an OS 91 FS Surpass, which I bought from eBay, and that's fitted in very nicely. And I think one of the benefits, it is a fair bit lighter than the 120 I was going to use, which I think might be helpful in terms of getting the thing balanced. So with the engine fitted, now gone on fitted the cowl with some careful measurement and cutting to get the holes in the right place. I think what I will do is I'll put another hole either side of the prop shaft just to provide a bit of extra cooling coming into the engine. Okay, I'll finish part 2 there. In part 3 I finished off the build. Not an awful lot to do now. Balance and get into covering, etc. Hopefully see you then.